And because we are giving you all the advice on how to manage your finances, right? When you're in an emergency, where can you get, that immediate friend? When you're also planning, because also it's not just in emergencies. You cannot just also be planning on how to run your finances, right? So at this particular point, I will be getting into Tala, borrowing to meet 1, 2, 3 needs. I know at this point I'll be able to pay. So you keep your credit score high as well. Because that is one side of the things that we're telling you. Let's also tell you about the other side, which is pension and preparing for your retirement. And there are very many pension funds available in the country. One of the best is the Taifa Pension Fund, registered and regulated by the Retirement Benefits Authority. So the Taifa Pension Fund is a pension fund for all, tailored to offer a safe and secure way to save for retirement. It's a contracted out scheme receiving tier 2 contributions. It's an umbrella fund that allows members to pool funds, take charge of your future by investing in your retirement with Taifa. Taifa unites Kenyans across all backgrounds, whatever, it doesn't matter. If you're just thinking about and you've gotten to that level where you're now financially aware and retirement is going to come. Sure, as the sun rises in the east, you're growing older every day, and you want to start putting your money towards a trusted retirement pension scheme. The Taifa Pension Fund is the one. How do you get more information? Go to their website, www.taifapensionfund.com. That's www.taifapensionfund.com. Or you can call them on, those are many ones. 4000. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4000. 5 ones, 4,000. Okay? It's by CPF. It's a very big thing. Spice. Our next conversation is going to be about corruption and projects. Every time we hear there's a new infrastructure project, just the conversation at the point we ended it with Kaluma, the issue of trust, deficit, government. Government, trust, deficit, public. There's a new project. The first thing people are thinking, so how has this one been contracted? What's going on? When now we go into PPPs, it's a whole conversation altogether. At PPP. So we are giving away this thing
Kusha.
To these guys. For how long?
How much?
We are starting to do PPP at somebody will own water dams and then they'll start selling water to us at whatever price they decide.
No, selling our water.
Our water to us. Because
it's not just water. He's not coming with his water. It is our water that they want to sell to us.
So there's a whole issue about just trying to understand, and that's why we've invited Engineer Howard Mai. He is a civil engineer and an infrastructure contracts professional. Engineer, good morning.
Good morning, Latiff.
How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Everybody who has seen the poster that we were saying you're coming said, please, if it is Mumero, it is Mutomai.
Mutomai.
Yes. Is that how you pronounce your name?
The name
apostrophe M-A-Y-I.
You pronounce it Mai.
So you pull the
Yes, without Nto.
So it's not Ntomai.
It's not Ntomai.
This is Mai.
What does Nto mean?
Mtoto.
I have no idea.
Murua. Ole.
Son of.
I've heard.
You get it?
I haven't got it.
You got it? Very good. But this one is Mai.
Mai, yes, correct.
Karibu sana, engineer.
Asante sana.
Yeah, that's a hot seat of the Situation Room.
I can feel it.
Very good. City is going to give you the day's proverb.
Okay.
This week we are in the Africa.
We are in the Africa south of the Sahara. The previous weeks we were in the area of the Maghreb. Now, this country that we are going to, should we say, mine proverbs from, is the Democratic Republic of Congo. Okay? They have a president. He's called Felix
Tshisekedi.
Well done. Well done. Well done. Does anybody know who the Prime Minister is? They're usually not known.
No.
It's a lady. Okay? Her name is actually Judith Suminwa. In case you didn't know, they have a Prime Minister, Judith Suminwa. It's a lady. Okay? And yes, tutawacha hapo, ingine tutasema baadaye, meaning we'll leave it there. Other matters pertaining to the country we'll discuss tomorrow.
Okay.
Firewood burns as long as it is not wet. A good man triumphs only when he is just. It's the same proverb.
Same proverb.
It's not two in one. No. Firewood burns as long as it is not wet. A good man triumphs only when he is just.
Engineer, what's your interpretation?
Let me hear the last part. A good man does what?
Wakes up in the morning. No, a good man triumphs only when he is just.
Okay, firewood burns when it is still wet.
No.
Not wet.
Okay,
When it's not wet.
let me say it again, bro.
Okay.
Firewood burns as long as it is not wet. Hapo tuko sawa?
Tuko sawa.
As Kenyans say, tuko pamoja?
Yes.
All right. A good man triumphs only when he is just.
Okay. When firewood is dry, it provides the correct environment for combustion. Let me try to be engineering.
Kabisa.
At the moment you introduce water, and then it interferes with the process of combustion. So at the burning stops. That's why in instances like where wood catches fire, water can be used as an extinguisher to extinguish the fire. On the second part of it, that a good man triumphs
only when he is just.
Only when he is just.
Yes.
This sends me back to some memories of the yesterday's sermon, where someone was preaching about the fruits of the Holy Spirit. The conclusion of that chapter says that against all these fruits, there is no law.
Which book of the Bible? No, he's right.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, it lists the fruits of the Holy Spirit, like love, kindness, self-control, and then at the conclusion, it says against such there is no law. So I would flip that saying against this scripture, that when you do what is right, the law only exists for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Ama namna gani?
Tuko pamoja. Yes. Sawa. Ama unasemaje ndu?
Ni hivyo.
Tuko sawa?
Yes.
Aya, engineer.
Yes.
Recently, we have now the public has started engaging a lot more with the issue of public-private partnerships as a way of infrastructure projects. Previously, we've just been dealing with government-funded projects. Either it's a loan, it's a partnership, it's a multilateral, bilateral agreement, and then it's funded, and that's where the other piece of law comes in. The Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act. Is that what it's called?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Now, there's been a whole confusion about these things and seeing the projects coming to fruition. First of all, what's the difference between these two, and especially when it comes to infrastructure projects?
If you allow me, Eric, I would wish to first lay a little bit of a background to construction projects and the questions of the topic of today in the context of projects. And I'll start where Mheshimiwa Kaluma left. I was listening to him, and I was not only listening to him, I was also following the comments. The comments were coming in furious. If you look through the comments, you can tell people are so angry out there. And second thing that comes out very vividly is that there is an extreme trust deficit from the public, almost to the extent that the moment you mention that you are government, trust levels go down as low as 40, 50, 60%.
People look at you differently.
People begin expecting that you are going to bring another lie. And because of this unfortunately is what has been driving conversations about public issues, including the ones like what you've mentioned. When people are discussing PPPs in this country, they don't seem to be driven by the principles that govern these PPPs. Instead, they're driven by emotions. They're driven by how they feel about everything. they're driven by, there's another thing that Mheshimiwa Kaluma said, that the economy is not doing very well. And when an economy is not doing very well, you don't need to explain to people. They feel it. They're able to feel it in their pockets. They're able to feel it when needs are arriving at their tables and they're not able to sort it. So that is the mood with which people come to discuss PPP. And yet PPP itself is something that it has a life of its own. In this sense, one, people have found it difficult to distinguish between PPP and normal contracts. Because, for example, a standard contract, you've mentioned several methods of financing that we've experienced before. Sometimes government collects money and they're able to just engage contractors and that they're able to do jobs. Sometimes government goes for loans, whether they are concessional loans or whether they are preferential buyer credit loans, depending on the circumstances that you are facing at that time. And of course, all these arrangements are subject to established laws within the country. That's what we've known all along, that you get money, you engage a contractor, he does a job, you pay him. And when we begin talking about PPP, the public, even professionals, struggle to distinguish between a normal contract, just a normal construction contract, and because PPP is not a construction contract. It's a financing arrangement. From the start. PPP is a financing model and not a construction contract. Inside this financing of infrastructure, there are several things, including the construction contract. So the construction contract is only an element of the entire PPP arrangement.
But the bulk of it is the financing.
The bulk of it is the financing, though that financing comes with lots of other issues. Let me just try to list a few other things that are inside the PPP. You have the construction contract, which normally will come with the EPC contractor inside the contract. You have the question of design. You have the question of supervision, which under normal circumstances will be stand-alone contracts. You have operation, and that operation will run for the duration of the PPP. If you are running a project for 30 years, then you will by all means you need to have some setup that will be running that
an entity.
And then you have maintenance. These are the standard projects. Once the construction contract ends, the supervision contract has also ended, the design ended sometime, you will be having multiple maintenance contracts for that period of the project life cycle. So if you pick, for example, a road that was done under PPP and a road that was done under normal construction, what was done under normal construction, by the time it reaches the 30th year, perhaps it has serviced not less than 15 maintenance contracts, maybe with different contractors. Now, inside the PPP, you must have this maintenance as part and parcel of that arrangement. So from the word go, when you analyze PPP as though it's a construction contract, you've already really you've already missed the discussion. You've already missed the discussion, and what you are discussing is an orange for a banana. Second thing that I would wish to highlight is that all these arrangements, both the construction contract and its procurement, its maintenance, and what have you, and the PPP, because of that difference that I've tried to bring up, you will notice that the laws that govern them, and these laws are passed by Parliament, the laws that govern them are also distinctly different. For instance, if you are going to procure for a construction contract and you have the money, whether you have it as a loan or as tax you have collected, you are looking at a method of procurement. And the Public Procurement and Disposal Act has got a list of procurement methods, depending again on the circumstances, including what people have popularly referred to as, direct procurement. And a lot of people struggle to interpret. There's a time I was in a forum and I was listening to two honorable members. These are legislators talking about PPP, and they're very angry like every other Kenyan. And this anger is driven by how people feel about the economy. But if you listen to the argument, they didn't seem to draw a distinction between the PPP Act, which is a document they produced, and Public Procurement and Disposal Act, which again is a document that they produced. Because The PPP Act is here to govern this whole idea of an approach of financing a project and then constructing it, bringing it to be and running it and ensuring that someone gets back their money over that period of time. This other law is governing procuring, where you have the money and you're able to pay for the service that you are procuring.
Is there anyone in government who knows the difference between those two?
They know. Why would they not know?
Okay, why do you speak so confidently that they know? What is it that you know that we don't know? Yes.
No, because you know what I'm talking about are laws. They are laws. They are not a creation of Engineer Howard. They are laws that are created by Parliament. They are there. And one thing that you need to know is that the laws of this land, they say that ignorance is not defense in the law. So they are there and they are available for anybody and everybody doing it to get to learn them and to know them and to apply them. But sometimes people may know something and maybe the only struggle they're having is they're struggling to say it. This is a hot seat, Eric said. Someone can reach in this hot seat and they begin struggling to tell the difference between those two laws.
The cat does the thing to their tongue.
Yeah.
Okay. From your experience and just looking at these different projects and how they have been handled from end to end, do you feel that those who are in charge actually act knowing that this is in the best interest of the country? So, for example, when a decision is made that let's go a PPP route and not the PPDA route.
Yes.
That everything, all the dots have been ticked and the T's have been crossed. That thing.
All these things happen in contexts. Projects don't just happen out of the blues. PPP is not a new concept. Today, when we discuss about it in Kenya, it's as though it's a new concept. But in this country, I think there are projects which have been done by PPP. They were finished, they were operated, they were transferred, they were taken over by government, and life moved on.
Give us an example.
A good example is Nyali Bridge in Ombaso. Have you ever asked yourself why that place called Lights? There is some open space that you can't exactly explain what it used to be for.
Apo Lights, Apo Kengeleni.
Pale lines, pale Kengeleni.
Kengeleni Apo.
Yes. I think that was a toll for Nyali Bridge. Once the project was handed over back to government, we are still enjoying it today.
Allah,
it's new.
So that was
yes,
PPP
it's a typical example of a PPP then,
okay,
which ran its full course of lifetime, and now it was handed over back to government. Now government is running it for free, and people are still enjoying it. But coming back to your question, whether people are acting in the interest of the public, and I've mentioned to you that it's all about context. For instance, let me mention one context. In Kenya today, you know that we have a law that governs how much you can borrow.
Yep.
And the limit is placed by the debt to GDP ratio. Once the government has borrowed up to that limit, it becomes difficult for government to borrow any more without breaking the law. And nobody wants to do that when you are in a position of responsibility in government. So, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that needs have ended. The population is still growing. People still need infrastructure. Today, for instance, there has been discussions about what's happening in the energy sector and questions about why we are doing a PPP. But
transmission lines.
Yes, I've listened, for example, to some of the professionals who are engaged in those projects and the people who are responsible. And one of the message that comes out is that we have a grid, and the grid is struggling with stability. And for us to bring that stability and ensure that people are going to continue getting power without interference, we need to improve the grid by introducing additional lines and substations so that we bring on board stability. Now, that's a context that the person who understands it is that officer of the law who has been given powers to make such decisions. Now, he knows that for us to get stable electricity, we need to increase, to improve this grid by these 300 kilometers transmission lines and maybe 10 substations. But when he goes back to his cabinet secretary and he's looking for money, the cabinet secretary goes back to cabinet and they're supposed to make a decision. There is a paper at cabinet level, and this cabinet is bound by the law. They cannot borrow, and they are not able to collect enough to pay the debts at the time when you are supposed to pay it, and at the same time channel money into projects, into doing this transmission line. Because this issue seems to be, time is also pressing on them, because our government, when it comes into place, it makes promises to its people that we are going to do ABCD, and that time does not stop. Once you take that Bible and you swear, the clock starts ticking. So time is not waiting for you. So for someone to overcome that kind of challenges, then the option that they retreat back to is a model of financing that is not going to balloon the public debt, while at the same time it avails resources so that a project can be done within a certain time. So if you look at that context, you are not able to query such situations before you look at the context under which they've worked. And one of the Kenyan contexts is the law that is established and our financial situation.
And the needs.
And the needs.
And the infrastructure needs.
Yes, all of them are coming, and then there is a time factor to all these issues.
So, if all of this is understood from the points of view of those who work on these particular projects, we look at that, which is brick and mortar. If there's a paper that's...
It looks straight.
It looks straightforward, absolutely.
Yes.
It looks straightforward, and that there's a document that's supposed to be adhered to. But then when you inject the element of humans,
Yes.
why does it always seem as though something might go off?
This whole idea of as I said, from the beginning, is the mood with which people are commenting about these issues. This mood clouds judgment. That mood clouds judgment.
Okay.
That mood clouds judgment, and you see someone could be pissed off because he feels that this thing was said somewhere, it didn't turn out to be right. And when he says it didn't turn out to be right, it depends on what they've been exposed to as the information they have access to. Sometimes you don't have full information. So when you don't have full information, you are bound to comment based on what you have received, what you've seen. Let me give you an example. When we started this discussion, it's a corruption in projects. Are we boxing shadows? And from my standpoint, I think by and large, we have been boxing shadows, and sometimes it consumes a lot of our collective energy to a point that we waste energy and resources fighting things that do not add value to the fight. Sometimes I feel like investigations into corruption scandals, quote unquote, end up losing more money than the contracts we are trying to look into. I can see CT is trying to connect with it. And this is it's a whole context that brings together the public, the political leadership, the media. I mean, all of us in one ecosystem seem to be driving this. For instance, there is Eric. There is a few years ago we had these discussions about the dam scandals.
Yeah.
Okay. When I posted that I was coming here, someone was in my inbox telling me you need to talk about the dam scandals. Let me mention something about it. Do you know that if we came down to the issues and if we examined the principles of everything that happened, we could argue that we lost more money in the investigation than in the contracts. Like the contracts were just normal contracts which people have not paid attention to understand them, but because they're arguing based on emotions, you go all the wrong way investigating them. First, you come out here and you get a news headline: 65 billion shillings dam scandal. What picture does that create? In the mind of a normal reader, they start immediately thinking that we've lost 65 billion shillings.
Yes.
Okay. When you come down to the contract and when you listen to more discussions, remember, I read the same news that you read. But as an infrastructure professional and as a contracts professional, I see and understand it differently. So when you tell me that 65 billion has been lost in a dam scandal, from the way I understand projects is that I will wish to know how many payments had been made. Because you cannot say you've lost something that has not been paid. When you come down to look at what has been paid, again, based on what is already in the public, what has already been reported in the public, you find 7 billion has been paid.
Only 7.
Only 7 billion. But for me, I don't stop there. I ask myself, what was it paid for? It was paid as an advance payment.
Yeah.
Again, for me as a contracts person, advance payment is a contractual payment. But I'll tell you some of the things that perhaps a journalist did not bring out when they were reporting that 7 billion has been paid. One, advance payment is a contractual payment. Number two, it is not just paid. If you look at how government, not just government, how clients handle advance payment. Today, if I came to you and you are giving me a job, you're telling me, Howard, you are a professional, I want you to do job XYZ for me, and I'm supposed to pay you advance payment. For an advance payment to be processed, you need to put in an advance payment guarantee. And for government, it's a standard form. This is how it says that you shall provide an advance payment guarantee. No, it says from an irrevocable, unconditional advance payment guarantee from a reputable local financial institution. So before you pay 7 billion, one of the things that you have to do is to get that advance payment guarantee.
The guarantee.
Okay. And there is a way this guarantee is handled. That guarantee is like money. That the contractor is going to bring you a guarantee, a bank guarantee, which is a paper. But how that paper is handled like money, because it's actual money.
It's a promissory note.
Yes, but it's handled with the seriousness that it deserves. So when that paper comes, you don't send it to the driver to go and or send someone a text message and tell him, hello sir, from bank XYZ. Can you verify this guarantee? No, that's not how you verify that guarantee. You are going to take probably a legal officer carrying that guarantee. Is taken by a driver to that bank, and he doesn't go to the bank teller. He doesn't even go to the branch manager. He goes to a certain department in that bank, because this 7 billion you're carrying, which deals with these guarantees. He will go and verify that guarantee, and he doesn't verify by someone looking at it. It is verified by the bank writing another letter, because you've written to them a letter asking them that we have this guarantee in favor of project XYZ.
Confirm.
So the bank is going to confirm also in written and write back to you and tell you that yes, this guarantee was issued and the conditions that are in the guarantee are as stated. And so we are good. When you come back with that letter and you go to the client, those papers are kept in a safe, probably with 3-level access codes. This is the whole idea, because if the contractor goes into default, you do not take a flight to go to whichever country, to China or to Italy, to investigate an advance payment. You invoke provisions of the contract and cash the guarantee.
It's a guarantee.
Yes.
Just say bank.
You tell the
Here
bank,
it is, yeah.
give me my 7 billion.
Your guy took off.
Remember, you have no obligation to tell the bank, mmekosania nini. You don't have to begin explaining. That's not the issue. It's an irrevocable, unconditional guarantee. On my first demand, you get me the money. So tell me, why would you be taking a flight to go?
Why are we going to Italy?
Why are we going to Italy? Secondly, and after you've done all these investigations, and with due respect to agencies of investigation like the TCI, like the EACC, you see, DCI, for example, these are police officers who are trained to investigate crimes, serious crime. Yes. But sometimes the tools that you need to do a proper investigation and not to go the wrong direction might not be.
Are you saying we do not have individuals or groups of individuals who understand financial crimes in this country?
That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that sometimes you leave the correct tools and you use the wrong tools, but not that the correct tools are not there.
And
keep wasting money.
You.
Yes, and it costs you money.
Which is why I asked you, engineer, whether you think that from the very beginning there is public interest involved.
So when we look at a lot of these PPPs, they have now been ensconced in the minds of folks as avenues towards corruption. It just looks as though PPPs have become conduits for stealing. Would that be a fair assessment?
There is looking like conduits for corruption, and there is being conduits for corruption. Do you know we've been paying an agency, we've been spending money on a legal agency called EACC for years now, and we do still spend on it. But a lot of the work that EACC does is fighting corruption perception, as opposed to fighting the corruption. And the problem of perception is too big in this country that we are channeling too much resources to it. And some of these fights and the arguments, public arguments that you're having, they are good for the sake of it, but then sometimes they're also wasteful. PPPs, for example, coming back to PPPs, and lately we've been having very heated conversations about PPPs. I could understand the public in the one instance, because especially the model of PPPs that has been picked a couple of times in the recent past has got a degree of opacity. Like it's opaque. Okay?
But the ones which have not been opaque are which ones, for instance?
Now, I'm just saying, if you look at the PPP Act, it has different types of...
Different facets to it, yes.
Different facets to it. But the one that we have used, especially the PIP, which is a privately initiated, it doesn't seem... It's not per se opaque, but the point at which it's supposed to become known to the public.
It's the manner in which it's revealed.
The manner in which it's revealed. For example, someone seated somewhere in a foreign country throws a document on social media and says that we are being finished. Our airport is gone. Now, without going into the difficult clauses of this act, let me just speak to the process of that PIP. Okay? In the simplest language possible. The PIP itself operates almost like the way you handle patents. Okay? So the way you handle patents is such that when I arrive at your door, you are the person regulating patents, and I tell you, I have this patent, and I give you that document, you've received it. The first thing you are supposed to do is to lock it.
I've come up with an invention that nobody else has.
You lock it first.
Okay.
The same way for the PIP.
I don't go saying, well, there's a guy who was invested,
so that other people begin coming up with other ideas. No. At that point, when a PPP partner arrives at your door and tells you that you have problem X, we have solution Y.
Yeah.
We would like to come in and provide you the solution.
Yeah.
Remember, it's our law. It's not. There is nothing illegal about it. Once they bring it to you and they pay it's $50,000, you lock it first. How is it reported out there that KAA gave out the airport that morning, that very morning when they received the document? But when you come down to look at how this law operates, what they did was just the right thing.
How would we know it's the right thing when we don't even know what a PIP is?
But it is in your law, and ignorance of that law
Actually,
it's not defense.
Actually, I'm not looking for defense here. The point I'm actually trying to make is it is incumbent, that same constitution that brings about our laws also states categorically the need for what we keep saying, public participation.
Absolutely. So
if you are
civic education.
Yes, if you're entering into an understanding on our behalf, should we not know what it is you're doing on our behalf?
Now, that's the reason why I wanted to run quickly in the simplest way possible through the procedure for this. First, you're supposed to receive that proposal and lock it. Once you've locked it, then
explain lock.
Once you've received it, you do not continue receiving other proposals on that.
Because of why?
Same matter. That's the law. But let me give you comfort.
Okay.
This law exists like that so that it also protects, because by the time someone is bringing in a PIP, they are putting resources into trying to develop that proposal.
They've done their homework.
They've done their homework. They've put in money already.
Right.
And you don't want to keep on cities coming. He has put in 100 million, and then Eric is coming, he has put in another 150 million, and Du is coming, he has put in another 50 million. So to avoid that, we will allow City to come. Once he has given us his proposal, we lock it, we process it, and that process has several stages. I think it's almost 20 stages. You process it, you are going to review it, you lock it first, and then you review it. You come up with your own counter proposal. You come and sit down and negotiate, get a middle ground. If you are a government agency, you take it through the approval procedures, take it to management, you take it to the board, and then the board takes it to cabinet level, and then the cabinet takes it to parliament. If your law says that the issue will come into public participation at parliament stage, and you begin querying it at proposal stage.
At locking stage.
At locking stage. You have no debate, you have no discussion. You are expending your energy on something that is not adding value to the conversation.
Excuse me, teacher. Excuse me.
Yes.
If I go to CT,
yes,
and I tell CT, I know you will need a shirt.
Yes.
Because I know CT is due to revamp his wardrobe.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Yes.
Because it's been out there in the public. Yes. Me, I like, buying my new clothes in December. He has been saying it.
Yes.
Then I come in October and I say, I know you will need new clothes in December. Okay? Mm-hmm. And the only thing now that's unique is the type of clothes I want to supply him and all those things. How can you call that a PIP?
It all depends with the laws that CT has set up for
so
CT,
are we saying that
for CT International.
In this particular
Limited.
case, for example,
yes,
our airport manager has been saying, I need to expand JKIA.
Okay.
I need to improve JKIA.
Yes.
Okay? Yes. There's a conversation that's been taking place. Somebody comes and says, I think you need to improve JKIA. There's nothing new you're telling me. The thing that I'd like you to do with your improvement of JKIA is ABCD. Now, you should not be stopped from allowing Engineer Howard to also come and say, I heard that you need to improve your JKIA. Here is how I propose to do it. I can lock it by saying, I will not go and tell Howard what Eric said.
Yes.
And I'll not tell Eric what Howard said.
Yes.
I will review all of them.
Yes.
And then I'll go back to each of them with a counter proposal.
Now, Eric, what you're saying sounds very logical.
Okay.
And it sounds good. Until the time you retreat back to the law and find that that is not how the law provides. The law under PIP,
first come,
first served. Okay. We process that first application until when we are convinced that we can't progress anymore. And we have examples of some of PIPs which have not gone up to the end. They have been terminated, and at that point, someone else can come on board. If you want a scenario where you can do what you are saying, where you can receive one person, you begin looking at it, and then you not tell the other, you can receive it also, then the right way to go about that is to go back to the Act.
And choose option 2.
If you go back to the Act, if you choose option 2, probably you'll be going for the open tendering approach.
Yes.
Or you can go back to the Act, even to the same section of PIP, and introduce additional clauses that govern that PIP.
By amending the law.
By amending the law. So before you amend that law, the law that is in place is what is going to be applicable.
Public interest again comes in. Okay? In this law of ours.
Yes.
Because this law of ours presupposes that a PIP shall come at a point where I did not even know that I needed this help.
Yes.
And then I look and I say, oh my God, this is brilliant. Actually, this person has looked 30 years down the road and they've seen my needs and I hadn't done this. But if I'm in the process of actually thinking how I need to improve my airport over the next 30 years, and I have been thinking, well, what route shall I take? Shall I go, direct contracting? Shall I advertise a tender? This is in the public domain. And then Howard comes and says PIP. Basically, you're saying that simply because I have received a PIP application from Howard, I cannot even consider going open tender. I cannot even consider any other alternative.
You need to remember, Eric, you have been thinking about the problem. You've been thinking about the JKIA problem.
And
in fact, you've been talking about it.
Yes.
You've been talking about it. You having thought about it and you've talked about it doesn't stop me from coming up with a unique solution to it. And unique solution does not have to be an Albert Einstein a kind of unique solution to it.
Yeah.
As long as I'm coming to you and I'm telling you, okay, so you've been having a problem with your airport, fine. Your airport has a lower handling capacity, and you're looking at the growth of Africa and maybe other areas. Okay, the unique thing about my proposal could be whether it's the designs, whether it's the amount of money, whether it's the conditions that I'm going to put in there. But as long as I arrive with a solution, and I'm telling you, I'm bringing you this solution.
It is actually not a solution. It is a possible solution.
Okay, fine. As long as I arrive with a possible solution.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And I come to you and I tell you I'm coming to you with this possible solution under provisions of your law.
Your own law.
Your own law. Section this.
Lock mine.
Then you have to follow that law. And if you do not want to follow that law, for example, if that law is not serving public interest, then the right place to go to is go back to Parliament and then make amendments to that law. But now let's come back again to these other issues. You have to, when we are asking ourselves, I think the biggest debate that we've been having out here and the information that has been flowing out here is that the airport has been sold. The airport has been done what?
Sold.
Yeah, it has been sold.
Yeah.
It has been sold at one.
Somebody is.
It has been sold at
We had a
1.8.
similar discussion with the port.
Yes, at 1.8 billion
Imepeanwa.
US dollars. Imepeanwa. First, a PPP is not a sale. It's not a sale. The law that governs PPP does not involve sale.
Do you know where the problem arises?
Yes, I'm listening.
There's a discussion here
Yes.
that was summarized in the Star. State agencies in trouble. For the longest time, the discussion of privatization has been a common discussion among Kenyans, the government seeking to. Now, the principle and the concepts around the sale or the privatization is really not the issue. If you start from the perspective that we have a serious trust deficit,
Yes.
if the government, just like you say, it is incumbent upon us to understand the law, it is incumbent upon the government to understand that we don't trust them, okay?
I agree with you.
Yes. So when you bring a project, no matter how good it is,
Yes.
if you don't take the time and bother to explain it in a manner that is easily understood by us, we will decide what it is. You can explain anything you want. We will decide what it is, and that is what we'll believe, and that's what we'll carry on with.
And there are many things that you will attach to it. It will be theft, it will be corruption,
Yes.
it will be an avenue for somebody to line their own pockets and enrich themselves
To own our airport.
without adequate comprehension of the matter from beginning to end in a manner that the person with the slightest understanding will be able to know what is going on. Without that, you create a vacuum whereby speculation can take root and grow. My goodness.
And
There's
if
nothing-
Sometimes information moves faster than the rate at which someone tries to provide that information.
No.
For
In some
for
cases-
example,
sorry.
Yes.
Adani, for
yes,
example.
Yes.
There was no explanation whatsoever that was given before speculation had already taken root. Speculation took root, and then that's when people started to say, oh, actually, the airport has been in need of revamping for some time. We didn't hear any stories about airport being in need of revamping and etc. before whistleblowers and their information came out.
The question you should be asking yourself about this whistleblower is that when you say that there had been no information, you need to be asking yourself whether we have a law that obligates that information to come out at that time. Because, for example, I cannot go, let me assume that I'm the responsible person in government. I cannot go and begin telling you that, hey, guys, Adani is coming with a PIP proposal.
Why not?
Until I told you this works.
Because you've locked it.
No. Because he has not even arrived. You don't even know whether
But
he's
you
coming.
had plans. Things were signed. You had plans.
No, let's not mix issues. I took time to explain this procedure.
You can't come in advance of Adani coming.
You can't come in advance before he comes.
Yeah.
And even when he arrives,
But you can come,
even
you
when
can
he
come in
arrives,
advance and say,
Yes.
guys, remember we've been talking about our airport. So in
Yes.
fact, we had given this contract to these guys to do Greenfield.
Yes.
We cancelled it, but that has not
Happened.
diminished the need.
Yes.
We still have a need.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And we shall be going out in the market and we are thinking this and the other. In fact, this cabinet paper
Yes.
is explaining those things.
Yes.
You can do all those things. So if you come now and tell us, oh, but Adani came last week and we are reviewing,
And we
it's
lock.
fine.
Yeah.
We locked, we are reviewing. We are not saying the details.
Yes.
They came up with a proposal
Yes.
But there's
We
an
are
inkling
revealing.
of information that you
Yes.
shared.
Well, that's certainly an area that can be improved in terms of the information that is given out there, even if it's limited information. But that having been said, it shouldn't also open a door for
Rumor mongers.
rumor mongering.
Bad talk.
Actually, you have a point. The door doesn't need to be opened. It has been open for a long time.
It never shuts.
Oh, that door, no, you know, it exists. It's part and parcel of the trust deficit we speak of. But remember, it isn't based on thin air.
Yes.
Our lived experience with major projects in this country, unfortunately, is that somewhere along the line, the tag of corruption and misappropriation of funds seem to follow these projects, unfortunately.
Yes. And
Before
one
you
of
come in, that's why I was putting the issue of public interest.
yes.
In our question today, are we boxing shadows? I put it to you that we are. And it has been designed so that we box shadows. In the process of boxing shadows, the real target moves, and we spend a lot of time, energy, just fighting these shadows. It was designed that way. When it
Yes.
comes out, you shall box this shadow here, and this manner shall go this way. We have seen Triton. We have been boxing shadows imeenda. Sijui
Let's put it this way.
Wajir Dam. We are boxing shadows.
Take your pick.
Dini Dam, we are boxing
Think about
shadows.
anything,
Even airport
throw a
now,
stone
we are
to
boxing
land.
No,
shadows.
let's try to narrow down this conversation to something.
In 20 seconds. Time.
20 seconds. 20 seconds is too short.
We can narrow down.
That though we have been angry and struggling with scandals, perhaps we know about some of the scandal, Golden Bag, Anglo-Leasing, and now here, when you come sensationally and say that we have a Dani scandal, for example, do you know that Anglo-Leasing, there was no company
Yeah,
called Anglo-Leasing?
it's Anglo-leasing type contract.
Yes, the same way for Golden Bag, there was no company. Here we are discussing about a multi.
What do you mean there was no company?
There was no company, as in when you go to UK and look for that company that was doing those dealings, you don't seem to find them. Here we are discussing a situation where you have a corporation. If you left here and you said you're going to look for this company, which
You'll
is
find
doing this
it.
deal, you'll find it, and not just find it, but it's a corporation that is established with an extensive governance structure. I can bet, in closing, that if however lucrative corruption is, it is impossible to build an institution of that size with the governance structures and succeed just based on corruption. You must be having something else. Governance?
We have a country
Yes.
with laws
Yes.
and structures.
Yes.
Serious.
And corruption.
Under constitution.
Engineer Howard Mai, thank you very much for joining us today.
Asante sana.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.